Well, Tony, congratulations on your victory. Just give us the feel, right? Getting a UFC win. What's the moment like for you?
It's great. It's hard to put into words. It's a little bittersweet though. I mean, I was hoping for a finish. I wanted to get the job done with a huge statement, but he was a tough opponent, and I did what I needed to do to win. And he was a super tough guy.
I was gonna say, I mean, he was coming out swinging. He was dangerous off his back as well. I mean, how did you feel about your performance against what was a very tough guy?
I feel pretty good about my performance. I felt a lot more relaxed in there than I usually do, which I think it helps because I can think a little more clear, because sometimes you get in there and it's just a huge rush and you're not thinking and you're doing wild things, and especially wanting to get a finish, you kind of open yourself up. But I just try to stay composed and I did what I needed to do against a tough opponent, and luckily I got the job done.
Were there nerves the first time around? I mean, was there a big difference in your mental mindset overall between the first time and now?
Yeah, it was a huge difference. The first time, going into it, I'm like, oh, it's going to be the same as any other fight. But it was different. But it was cool though, because it was pre-COVID. I got to fight in front of all of my family and friends and everybody that I've met throughout my entire life in Raleigh. So. You had them cheering, and even though at the end of the day you got to go in there and fight, and I know that they're going to love me regardless. It was more nerves, and wasn't necessarily from that, more of just me being able to finally get my debut, something that I've dreamed about. And like I said earlier, it was like a rush, and you weren't quite thinking. It was just like tunnel vision. Weren't really thinking of moves. It was just do stuff. But this was a little different. I was more laid back. I feel like I probably didn't do as much as Coach Bruno had asked me to do, but I did as much as I could hear, as much as I could relate to do. But it was a cool experience, and even though I didn't want to get a split decision, it still felt really good. Even though to draw it out and then say, oh, winner by split decision, so.
Did you think well, let me ask you first. You wrestling, you had a clear wrestling advantage, right? But he was incredibly active off of his back as well, and dangerous there. So was there any concern to keep going to the wrestling and worry that I might be putting myself in danger?
No, I've got college wrestling and NCAA wrestling. Coach Bruno said put the NCAA pressure on them, and it's different. Wrestling, there's always this argument. Jiu-jitsu people are going to say jiu-jitsu is better than wrestling. Wrestlers are going to say better than jiu-jitsu. But a really good wrestler, a high-level wrestler that can stay in good position is hard to submit, and eventually you're going to wear them out. If you defend a couple of submissions, after a while they don't want to throw them up anymore, and after a while they start opening themselves up for strikes. And so just being there, putting pressure on people. I don't think jiu-jitsu people like pressure, but wrestlers they thrive on that dogfight, that constantly putting weight on somebody. And I just stuck to it. I mean, regardless of what he was throwing up, just made sure I stayed in good position, and as much as I could do to wear him down.
So then I'll ask you about the decision. I mean, were you guys confident you had it? How did you guys have it scored, and what did you think, going to the decision?
I mean, I was pretty confident until they said split decision. But then again, I know one judge gave me 30-27, and I was thinking in my head, I know I did enough to win, but you never know. But that's just part of it. It could be some other judges in there that could have went the other way. So I'm just thankful that it went my way. I thought I did well over enough to win, and I guess I did. So I'm just happy that I got it done.
Nice. And then last thing for me, where do you want to go from here? I mean, as I said, it was kind of a lengthy layoff between fights. You got the first UFC win under your belt. So what's the next move? Are you looking for a quick turnaround? Are there names you want? What's the next move?
I don't have any names in particular, but I would like to stay a lot more active now. I'm down to fight next month, January. I just want to be active again. I've always been active, and then between COVID and moving and a couple of different life changes, haven't been able to be as active. But especially now that I kind of knocked the dust off that layoff, I'm just ready to get back in there and stay active again and keep growing.
Hey, Matt, you mentioned the wrestler sort of attitude and enjoying putting on that pressure, does that help you mentally as well as physically?
Yeah, absolutely. It's with wrestling. It's something I've done my whole life. So it's something where no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on, you got to keep pushing forward. You got to keep grinding. It's always attack, attack, attack. So, it's the same thing in life. It's just no matter what, you just suck it up and you do what you got to do. So, that's helped me throughout everything in life, mostly sports, but same way with life. No matter what's going on, whether it's good or bad, you gotta on to the next thing, do what you need to do to get the job done, and so it's carried over into life and fighting for me.
Do you think that gives wrestlers an advantage when they get to the UFC, right? And it's this big level and the big lights, but you're all trained to just keep pushing forward, like you say. So the UFC jitters, right? Does that not affect wrestlers as much, do you think?
I think it affects everyone, but I think wrestling, I may be a little biased, but I think that wrestling is the best base martial art to start with. I consider it a martial art because it's a lot of discipline involved, a lot of respect should be in there, and most wrestlers are respectful. But I think that's you could take a great wrestler and teach him basic boxing, and he'll take over. And we've seen many of really good wrestlers come through here and take over. So I think wrestling is, like I said, I'm a little biased because I wrestle, but I've been, it's helped me a lot. So I would like to say that, facts kind of back that up.
Cool. Congrats, man.
Thank you so much.
How did you transition from being, collegiate wrestler and then coming into this, or were you training fighting even before going to college?
My dad taught Taekwondo for a long time. So when I was probably could walk 3 or 4, I did Taekwondo, and growing up, we never really watched basketball or football. We watched boxing. We watched MMA. I watched UFC back when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have been watching it at the age I was, but that's all we watched is fighting stuff. So growing up, it's something that I would always tell my dad that I was going to fight. I was going to be in the UFC, and he's one of those old school guys, and he's like, no, you only fight when you have to. Like you don't fight for a sport. You only do it for self-defense. And I've always wanted to fight. I started wrestling in middle school, and I've always wanted to fight throughout the whole process of middle school, high school, college. And, we used to go to my dad's karate place and his dojo, and I had a key, and we would actually fight in his dojo. And but it's always something I wanted to do. And by the time I graduated college, I was had like a little bit of a layoff where I didn't want to do anything, because you go from wrestling and that grind, and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna work out anymore. I'm gonna eat everything I want. And then after a while, I got tired of that, and I finally convinced my wife to let me start fighting. So, and ever since then, I've just been fully committed, and now I'm here.
So when you were did your father help? He didn't help you, like, hey, you should do this, do wrestling that's where you want to get, or he just?
No, he so I did Taekwondo for a long time, and I actually wanted to quit Taekwondo, but he's one of those people that he's like, no, you're not going to quit. You're not going to be a quitter. So once I started wrestling, he kind of let me stop doing Taekwondo. When you're younger, you get tired doing the same thing over and over and over, the forms, the different classes. Since he taught, I had to be there all the time. So I just completely burned out. So once I started wrestling, he there you go. And he was just as supportive. And at first, when I told him that I wanted to fight, he was, no, you're not going to fight. He thought I was playing, or thought he was going to convince me not to. And now he's like obsessed with it. Like he and my mom are completely obsessed. And this is actually like one of the first fights that they haven't been able to come to. So, I haven't talked to him yet, but I'm sure they went crazy watching it. But yeah, he's, at first he didn't want me to do it, but now he's like, he even cornered me in my last fight. He's cornered me a bunch of times, but he's super supportive now, and that's like all he talks about, all he thinks about. He shares my stuff on Facebook all the time. I'm sure people are tired of seeing me like on his Facebook, but
parents will always be proud. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.